roughly last March, about 70% of the homes were over asking price, 70% of sales.
Yeah,
We'd call that like a seller's hello market.
Sure,
yeah,
not a
and
crash.
way over, right?
Yeah.
Last summer, things slowed down a lot as rates went way up. Everybody went, whoa. And now we're back up over 40%. Most of the U.S. is experiencing a very similar thing that we are, because I talk to agents all over the country like every day. And it's just not that many places for sale, and a lot of people buy.
That housing crash the so-called experts were predicting hasn't come to fruition. This is due in large part to the availability of homes remaining scarce. Couple that with home prices leveling off, even despite the fastest rate increase in history, SLO County Real Estate remains a strong investment and a great place to live for quality of life. In this episode, Team Sweasey gets to some of the latest analytics and talks about things you can do to help make your next transaction convenient and seamless while maximizing the value of your investment. The SLO County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Sweasey. Here's your host, James Bueno.
All right, here we go. Another SLO County Real Estate with Mr. Hal Sweasey. And guess what? Mr. Sweasey is with us. How are you, sir?
I'm great, James, as usual.
And JT is here. JT, how are you?
Oh, man, I'm so happy to be here.
And the man himself, looking fresh as ever, Mr. J. Pete. How are you, sir?
Hoorah, I'm glad to be here.
Hal, I have a quick story for you.
Well, first, can I acknowledge somebody?
It's your show. I mean,
Best
sir.
dressed on the podcast is Jay.
Jay, yeah. Let's give him a round of applause.
I dressed for the audience.
Yeah.
For the audience.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
You know, I think it's the haircut. Did you just get a haircut?
I just did, yeah.
You did. Okay. So
Oh, it's not just cut though. It's been shaped and folded.
JT,
Manicured.
what is the look for?
You guys are killing me.
Oh, JT,
I wear a Hawaiian shirt every single day.
I know.
I'm
And
not
it-
the best
and it
dressed.
matches
And
the
if
beard.
we're in Hawaii, then you absolutely win.
Here's the thing. We all really all want to be wearing the Hawaiian shirt.
That's true. And I was just talking to him about it earlier. So he's going to give me his old ones that are old and raggedy. So
Yeah,
even
James-
better.
I'm going to get
James
my
is gonna-
inner JT.
James is going to visit the islands this summer.
So,
I am.
I'm
so,
excited for him.
so we got best dressed, and then we have most consistently dressed, and that's what you win. Same shirt every
Absolutely.
time.
Well, it's
Are you
not the
kidding me?
it's not the same.
Not the same shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah, the same brand.
It's
Same
brand, yeah.
brand. Well, they all look the same to me.
And you own how many, JT?
Like 60.
Does that all?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he only wears 2 of them. The other 58 are for a special occasion.
is there...
Okay, so let's get on with
So
it.
no, I one quick question. Do you wear when you go visit your son in Seattle? Do you wear those?
Every day.
All the time.
Wow.
But it'll have a giant sweatshirt on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I see him on social media and all your pictures. And
Hey, let's talk about
sweatshirts
our
are-
podcast.
Okay.
All right.
Enough about
You know,
that.
but first, how I wanted to start here is I wanted to share a story with Hal, and it reminded me, you know, maybe we should talk about you a little bit, Hal. So, you know, I went down to 5 cities and took some photos of a home that we were listing, and when I was done with the photos, the seller was like, you know, how much do I owe you? Let me write you a check. And I'm like, why are you writing me a check? She goes, well, ain't I supposed to pay for photography? So I had to explain to her, you know, hey, we're a team, we work together.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think about, hey, maybe people don't realize how we're different. So can we talk about that a little bit?
A lot of people come to us because of James, you're our photographer, right? The quality of the photos. So, I mean, you can,
Of course, yeah.
you know, and people don't even take that for granted. Like sometimes, I mean, I can go out with a cell phone, or somebody on the team could take pictures with a cell phone, but
Sure.
you know, you're a professional and you do all
Most
your
of the
magic.
time,
What's the stuff you do with it? When on the computer, you can make it look really good. I mean, what do you call that?
Post, yeah,
Witchcraft.
yeah, witchcraft,
Witchcraft.
yeah. It's all brackets. It's a
Yeah.
process.
And then we have the drone photography, the
do.
aerials, all that stuff. So all that makes a difference in how the property shows up. So we decided, you know, I decided a long time ago that I shouldn't do everything, right? So there's certain
Probably
things.
a good idea, yeah.
Well, I mean, that is the nature of this business as an independent contractor. It's more common than uncommon that you do everything start to finish. Right, and Jay always makes that analogy of a baker. You know,
Yeah,
does he
exactly.
does he harvest the wheat? Does he deliver it? All that stuff. So yeah, so our team is just grown out of learning over the past 30 years what works. You as our marketing person specialize in posting and boosting online and making sure our ratings are up and that we have all our listings are current on the website and everything looks great. So it has that professional image. Most people don't have that, or they'll sub it out, or they can't get a photographer because they're busy if they do hire one.
Right.
So having control over that is a big deal for us. And the benefit to the customer is they just get a better product. Boy, some of the reasons people come to us is being on both sides of a negotiation when you're representing a buyer or seller. We see when we represent buyers how our offers are treated and how they're negotiated, and we look at that and you know, no disrespect, everybody handles things differently, but it's sometimes, wow, our buyer would have paid more and that seller could have gotten more if properly handled.
Right.
The buyer has to go find another house. The seller maybe didn't get what they wanted. So learning how to negotiate, from both sides, from sellers and buyers, makes a big difference. And that's why when people come to us, they go, "Oh, it seems like you sell homes for a higher price," which we kind of pride ourselves on. We got a whole team here, like this morning, collaborating. Like, oh my gosh, we have this new event with this house we have, and one of my agents goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to call the Joneses right now and let them know this new thing." Right there, it happens in real time. Boom, we're getting an offer. There's a lot that goes into it, and I don't want to go too much detail. But John, you've noticed some things because you've been around the horn. I mean, what am I leaving out?
Well, I have the unique experience of being a client before I joined the team. You list your house, and you have the expert help you get started with listing the house, which is Hal. Who came to our house and helped us figure out how to price the house and the things that we needed to do to get ready to sell. And then he introduces me to his listing manager, Sharon, who's an expert at taking it from Hal and getting it to the marketplace. And then once we get offers to be negotiated, Hal's the master at that. And, I was talking to an older gentleman who was a former business partner of mine the other night. He was thinking, why do I need to pay a commission to a real estate agent? And I said, well, you don't have to. You can try to sell it yourself, but I guarantee you don't have the negotiation skills, and you're going to cost yourself more than you're going to pay in commissions. So once you get an offer, Hal's the master at negotiating, and then goes into escrow. Then we hand it off to our escrow manager, Dakota, who was on a prior podcast, right?
Yeah, he was on last week's podcast.
Yeah, and so he's an expert at that. So what happens is, because Hal's not the Lone Ranger working just by himself, and in between, Hal and Sharon, it goes to James to start marketing and do the photographs like we talked about.
Right.
But you get an expert at every point in the process. And yet I knew all along that Hal was up there overseeing everything. He was involved,
right,
but not necessarily, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's.
Sure. And there's an expert at every.
Yeah. So I'd say that's the difference that I see in the business model that Hal's built here.
So big question. So how much more does it cost for Team Sweasey to sell your house?
Usually not more. We usually look at a seller and go, what's the net? Like, what do you net when it's all said and done? So if I might charge a little bit more in some cases, sometimes not, but can we put more money in your pocket after our services?
Right.
And when John was talking about somebody who wants to sell on their own, which I get from the outside, to me, it's the guidance we give while you have your home up for sale. And it's kind of like, in my mind, it's like a doctor. I can go get an x-ray, but once I see it, what am I going to do with it? Brand new med student may not know much. The experienced doctor does know what to do and how to interpret. So here's what's happening in the marketplace. Hey, we're on track, we're off track. Here's the adjustments we need to make. That just comes with time, So I would say the value we bring for sure is just that experience, and like, we've been through here before. This is what can happen. These are our options, and we always give people options to make the best decision possible.
One of the things we did a few months back is we looked at the sales price versus the list price. And that's done routinely in the industry. Hal's numbers were 3 or 4 points above the market average. So if you're going to sell your house with Hal, the likelihood is you're going to get a sales price of 3 to 4% higher than the average agent in the community. So is that worth paying another point in commission?
Right.
And a lot of time, back to your point, Hal, it's not really what they make, but what they keep that makes the difference. And if you're thinking about selling your property on your own to like avoid having to pay that realtor's commission, you could literally lose everything when the homeowner sues you for the disclosures you didn't provide. Hal, I love your analogy about, a doctor and your x-ray. You could see it, but you can't read it. And one of the things that I love about your organization from a 10,000-foot view is that my general practitioner can't look at my chest x-ray and tell me whether I've got a heart
Sure.
condition. That goes to a specialist. You have on your bus not only the right people on the bus, like James and Dakota and Sharon, but you also have them in the right seat. It's like having a bus filled with surgeons that are specialized in their specific field. And by doing such, when someone chooses to work with your team, they get a bus full of surgeons as opposed to one guy that's trying to do it all.
Right.
If I may, just the convenience of it. The reason why I came to you guys with the idea with the podcast is because we had an enjoyable experience with your team when you sold our house, and everything was convenient because you had that team. You know, it wasn't like I was tracking down somebody who was working on 3 different things that were probably, from a priority standpoint, more important, because it probably would have netted them more money than the house that you guys were selling for us. But there was always somebody that we could get a hold of on your team, get us an answer immediately, and get back to us right away and move through the process. And that's why when James and I came up with the idea for the podcast, I was like, I want to work with you guys because you guys are the best. Like, I work for a media group that if we disseminate bad information, it looks bad on us. But when you guys are doing it, I know that we're working with professionals.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Jeff, since you joined the conversation here, I would just like to say congratulations and thank you to you and James. I guess Jeff might be known around here as the father of our podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he
Founder.
invented this notion
Father or founder?
of starting a podcast. And
Big Daddy.
And James shared with me yesterday that we had 20,000 visitors to our podcast website. So
Yeah, that was actually our entire site. So a podcast, yeah, it's 15, 16,000 just for podcasts. Yeah.
Wow.
we had 20,000. Now, you know,
It's still a lot
that's
though,
amazing.
for San Luis Obispo
Yeah.
site. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's huge.
And so thank you. We must be doing something right for people to want to tune in. We must be giving people helpful information, which is exactly what we set out to do. You know, the whole idea behind this thing is a bunch of guys sitting around the bar having a drink, talking about one of our favorite subjects that we're passionate about, and that's real estate, and more importantly, helping others with real estate.
Well, we were really good at having a drink around the bar before this started. Now
we're really good at that.
now,
Yeah.
now we're
in a
trying to help.
boardroom office. What's going on?
But I would say this too, because, you know, there's so much information out there. You know, real estate's a hot topic. There's a lot of sensationalism. So for us, I think when I get feedback from people that say, "Oh, I heard you on the radio," a lot of it's like trying to provide sound advice, just like you're talking to your best friend or a relative or, you know, a great client. And it's more about saying, hey, here's your options and here's what's really happening out there, because there's a lot of myths and a lot of generalizations. And as we'll talk about in a minute, things just change so rapidly.
Yeah, what you guys do is a huge public service to the community.
Yeah.
Just having this, being able to subscribe to it and listen to it and get that insight, whether or not you're actively looking or you're thinking about actively looking or selling later on down the road, it's nice to have access to that information.
Yeah. If anybody ever has a question or a topic suggestion,
Yeah.
send it on in, and you can find us, Hal, myself, whoever, and we'd love to talk about it. So, JT, what do we got?
Well, I read something in the newspaper that kind of got me riled up again. I'll share that with you in a second. But just in the county of San Luis Obispo, the sales in January were a total of 173 closed sales. In February, it moved to 203, and in March, it moved up to 280. So I'm hoping that when we get the April numbers, that we'll continue to move up and get back to more, what do you call it, Hal, a normal market from the number of sales?
This year, at the second half of the year, it sure looks like it's going to be vastly improved in terms of activity, volume. Most metrics is going to be way better than last year.
And when you look at the inventory, the inventory in the county is not changing much.
Right.
I look at all the houses, condos, and townhouses inventory. I measure that number. Over the last 6 months, it's gone anywhere from 310 to 380. It was 336 yesterday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So that number's not moving, which would indicate, Jay, we talk about this all the time, about the market crashing, right? And how that's going to happen next?
No.
No,
I thought
that's not going to happen.
Wait, we're in a crash right now, right? Didn't it crash already?
If by crash you mean that the property is entered the market, leave the market in 10 days, oh yeah, then we're definitely crashing, right?
And fast.
Yeah, totally. And it happens every single month.
But the article that got me riled up again, I talked about this a couple podcasts ago, is the newspaper is telling the public that home values are going down because they are reading data about median home prices. 50% above, 50% below. So we got a median home price going from $800,000 to $780,000, and we're saying that home values are going down, is what the public reads into that.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Are there any truth to those numbers, Jay? You'd probably know this. If they're talking about the entire United States, or are we talking about SLO? Like what?
If you look at San Luis numbers, they've been flat for a year. I mean,
Right.
there's been months that have been higher or lower when you're looking at medians. But again,
In terms, you're talking flat price-wise.
price-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, you're comparing Scenic Coast to San Luis to San Miguel. I mean, that's like apples, bananas, and a loaf of bread.
Right.
Like,
We're
those are
totally
priced
different. Yeah.
differently.
Hey, I looked online this morning. What closed on Monday in the county? I think there were 7 properties. So this is not a sample size that is big enough to give us.
Do you know what this is called, this about your say?
What's
It's called an anecdotal
there? You go.
example.
Okay,
I just learned that's.
You just learned
This is
that?
an anecdotal. Now I don't know the second word. How do you describe what I just said? Anecdotal example.
Now I lost what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
No. Yeah.
Forgot
7
what I
places
was-
closed. What happened?
So 3 closed above the list price.
Mm-hmm.
3 closed below the list price, and 1 closed at the list price.
Median.
Yeah, 80.
So it's,
So what it tells me is, if 50% of the houses are closing at above the ask price, can we say home values are going down?
Well, and you had those, and I'm going to generalize the numbers from an economic forum recently that a title company sent over, right? So roughly last March, about 70% of the homes were over asking price. 70% of sales.
Yeah,
We'd call that
that-
like a seller's hello
Sure,
market. Yeah,
not a
and
crash.
way over, right?
Yeah.
And then a few months later, last summer, things slowed down a lot as rates went way up. Everybody went, whoa. Then they were only 19%. Probably normal, right?
Yeah.
If you went way back over time. And now we're back up over 40%. And I don't know if this is the county or California, but most of the U.S. is experiencing a very similar thing that we are, because I talk to agents all over the country like every day. And it's just not that many places for sale and a lot of people buying. It's amazing how quickly that shifts. We would never 5-10 years ago see this fast of changes in the marketplace. The speed of change in the market is like I've never seen it before. It changes so fast. You were just talking about rates. Jay, what did you just say about rates?
Last
interest
week.
rates, I should.
Yeah, interest
mortgage rates. Sorry.
Yeah, 30-year mortgage
rates.
rates for a qualified buyer were almost 7%, like 6.8, 6.9 last week. And today they're at 6 3/8. I mean,
That's huge.
Yeah, almost a full point drop. And we're seeing some economic trends like inflation's going to. It's a 12-month rolling average. So 12 months ago, inflation was dynamic,
Right.
and we're hovering at the 5%. So the headline should be reading: inflation falls 20%. That's good news. Are we going to see it? I don't know.
So you talk about the speed of shift, Hal.
Yeah.
The shifting market. I read, I think it might have been from the guy we talked about before, the mortgage guru.
Barry Habib.
Barry Habib. I think it was Barry who said that a 1% decrease in the interest rate will bring 5 million buyers to the market. Well, how many houses are for sale in the U.S. right now?
A fraction of that.
500,000.
Yeah.
So 500,000, and we don't have problems selling those 500,000 houses that are on the market already. How quickly will the market shift if we add 5 million buyers overnight?
Yeah, it's going to be that
Quickly.
10, 12. And that's why we're constantly encouraging people. If you're considering buying, if the rates are 7%, get into a house. There's less competition. And I'll tell you, most lenders, I know Ben Lerner was here a couple of weeks ago. He was like, hey, we'll do a no-cost refi within 6 months.
And pay your rate down for the first year.
Yes.
Free.
Yeah, just do it.
Here you go.
If you need a house,
Thank you.
buy it.
Yes.
Yeah, because try that when there's 12 offers, all cash,
Right.
12 offers well over asking price. It's going to be a bloodbath.
It's difficult. Anecdotal example here. You guys know what that means? Anecdotal.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Not really, just kind of pulling it out of thin air. But here's a conversation I really don't hear much anymore, which I was hearing from, last April to December. I'm going to wait for the market to, come, what do you say, bottom out, come down, it's going to come down. I don't hear that as much anymore. People look at it and go,
This is it.
we have so many cash offers. We have so many properties still. 40% being bid up, that's pretty common right now. We represented a buyer recently, 895 house. They offered $1,150,000 and they weren't even in the hunt.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And this was a rough piece of property. Now, are some prices still, are homes above what the market is? Yeah, that happens sometimes, but that's considered normal and you adjust. But the great thing in this market, if you're a property owner, in the first couple of weeks, because there's so much demand and so little supply, if in a couple of weeks you haven't had any offers in this market, it's like you've missed the mark.
Yep,
in a regular market, you wait 3 or 4 months for that one buyer because there's so few coming around. So that's just the nature of the market. It's really interesting how quickly these things turn.
Hey, Jay.
Yes.
When was the best time to buy real estate?
20 years ago?
When was the second best time to
Today.
buy? There you go.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, does anybody have any last thoughts on our podcast today?
I would say this to our listening public, and again, there's so much to learn, and a lot of the value we bring is not for somebody that's going to do business with us right away. We try to be like the local Google if you have a question. But I was just meeting with some folks today that are selling a home that they moved their mom into a retirement home, and they're selling it, and their father had passed away, and they didn't realize something, and this will fall on maybe a lot of people won't even understand what I'm saying, but when somebody passes away and you're a part owner, if you have a trust, a lot of times you get this new, what they call a basis. So they paid maybe $150 for the house 30 years ago. Now it's worth $1.5 million. And if they just went from $150 to $1.5 million, it's getting complicated, but that's $1,350,000 in gain, paying taxes on the whole thing. I said, well, if it was in a trust, and one of the trustees passed away. I know that my property, if I pass away, you get what's called a stepped up basis, which means they don't say you paid $150. They say your basis or what you paid is what it was worth in 18, okay, which is probably close to 1.2 million. So now you go 1.2, but I'm selling for 1.5. That's $300,000. Well, she gets $250 tax free, so she probably paid very little taxes after closing costs, et cetera. So they just went from, oh my gosh, we're going to pay 30% on the gain to like, we aren't going to pay any taxes for my mom to live off the rest of her life, right? So just little things like that because you've done it a long time, you can share that with people and they just don't know. Little things like, hey, how do you save money, fix it? Don't repaint all the house. You can do this and that. So we were talking earlier about, our top line results, which are measurable, great, but it's a lot of the things that are in the beginning where you can save money as well. So there's just a lot of ways we can help, and that's what we're here for.
JT, do you have anything for us?
No, great week to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Congratulations to everybody on 20,000 visitors.
Well, hey, I tell you what, it's all of us. It's a group effort, and we've all made this thing successful. So thank you guys.
Can we do one last thing for James and Jeff for starting this?
You're the boss.
And executing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that round of applause will wrap us up for today. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you all next week. Thank you for listening to the How Sweasey podcast. Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast. It comes out every Monday, so check for it in your feed for the latest information on the San Luis Obispo County market. The SLO County Real Estate with How Sweasey podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and on howsweasey.com, where you can find current listings and other real estate tips. Howsweasey.com, that's HALSWEASEY.com. I am James Bueno, Director of Marketing for the How Sweasey Group. If you're looking for anything real estate, give us a call, 805-781-3750.
Al Sweasey is a licensed California real estate broker. DRE number 011119111. The SLO County Real Estate with Hal Sweasey podcast is a production of AGM Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.